Hello and welcome to the Gothic Unicorn. Today we're getting stuck into spooky season and to something decorative for the doll's house. Now what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start by going through the pieces that I've already got for decorating the exterior of the doll's house. I haven't actually found the pieces I made for the interior, which is quite concerning, but they'll be around here somewhere. Anyway, we're going to start with these, so I'm going to get those and we'll take a look. Now, last year's Halloween decorations were put away in one of my little plastic containers, and then there were a few pieces that didn't fit. I did mean to find a bigger box, but I never got round to it. And they were in a drawer, so they were quite safe. So we've got a box. And then we've got a few other pieces. We've got my knitted pumpkins that I made. That was a bit of an experiment. They weren't really Halloween decorations, but you know, it was just something that I knocked up. We've got my wonderful plant that I did a video on. I love this piece. I love this idea of the sort of man-eating plant, the kind of Little Shop of Horrors vibe. Just really love this, and yeah, you'll get why I really love this in a bit. We've got my little vignette with my flamingos turned into vultures and a gravestone. Another piece I still like. I do like the little composition of that one. And we've got a coffin. Now, I think I know who's in the coffin. Yeah, it's my mummy. Again, this is another piece that I still like. All of these, there are videos from last year, and I will link the playlist for last year's spooky season in the description box. So I'm going to move on to the box. Now I've got my candy stand, my take a treat if you dare, and I've got my bat bits. I never did make any more treats for it, just ran out of time. We've got more of the altered flamingos. I've got a zombie and a skeleton, and then I've got another skeleton and the original vulture. I had great fun with these. They were drink stirrers and they work really, really well. I've got a tangled mess. Oh yes, we've got one of my signs, and you can tell this is the first time I've opened this year. I've got a cute little sign. My door wreath, which is styled after a certain movie villain. Skull topiary. I've got my doormats. My particularly spooky doormats, and also a welcome mat that I made. I've got some Halloween bunting. And then we've got a selection of bats, pumpkins of various kinds, and some little skulls. So I've got quite a selection already, and I don't know how much of this I will use this year and how much new I will add to it, but my sort of ethos with this is to just keep building on the collection, use bits differently, change things up, make new bits. And today we are going to be making a new bit, so I'll clear this off and we can get started. Now, I have left my little Venus flytrap man-eating plant out because this is the piece that's inspiring me to build on it this year. I watch a lot of Halloween decor videos, hunting videos, that is Halloween decor hunting videos, not hunting videos, because I try to keep up with what's going on. Now, the simple truth of the matter is, in the UK, there isn't a lot of stuff about. If you want good Halloween decor, you've got to make it yourself. Most of what's out there is very childish because it's aimed for children, or it is incredibly expensive. You know, I see videos from the States and people are picking up this and picking up that, and I'm like, yeah, the only way you can get that is to buy it off eBay or buy it off Amazon, maybe if you're lucky, and it costs a lot because Halloween just isn't that big over here. One thing I have noticed this year is there's a lot of different weird and spooky plants, and I've decided that's the direction I'm going to go in. And so he's going to get this little two-headed creature plant. He's going to get a companion of sorts. This is not going to be a direct companion because who wants all their spooky plants to be the same? I know I don't. So obviously, if I'm going to make a spooky plant, I'm going to need a planter. Now, this little dude and most of my other outdoor pieces, I've made the same kind of planter using a combination of foam board and air dry clay. Well, I don't have access to any air dry clay at the moment. I'm not about to go out and buy any more because I've got some, it's just in storage. So I'm going to look at doing a different kind of planter, and I'm going to use my favourite material. I'm going to use a bit of a cereal box. So what I've done is I've cut the cereal box down. In the first place, I cut a piece which is 1 inch by 1 3/4 to give me a good size planter. I don't want it too big, but I want it a similar, little bit bigger than the one that this one's in, because of the design of plant I'm going to make. Now, because I haven't got the air dry clay to give it structure, I've piled up lots of pieces. Now there's about 12 pieces there that have all been glued together, and that should give me enough weight, I hope, to actually hold the plant in place. And then to make the sides, I cut a strip that was 3/4 of an inch in depth, and then I've cut the pieces to suit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my planter by sticking the pieces onto this. So basically most of my soil will be the cereal box board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start gluing this, and I am going to begin by gluing the 2 long pieces on. And then what I've done, these are obviously 1/4 of an inch by 1 3/4. Yeah, that's right. And what I've done, couldn't remember then, is I've cut these so they're actually too long, because I'm going to have to stick them onto the ends and cover up these edges there. So I'm going to stick the 2 long ones on first, and then I'm going to stick these on and obviously trim them once it's started to dry. The one end is in place, and I'm just going to show you how I have done this. All I've done is I've got some glue, and obviously I want to put a good amount on this tall bit, but also make sure that the entire little side bit is covered. This is just so that you get the best sticking in place that you can. And this is one of those times where lots of glue, and then all you do is you stick the piece into place, and I'm just going to make sure that it sticks nicely at the corners and that it is even all the way along. Now, as you can see, I've got my little overhang there, and I'm just going to take that bit of glue out so it's easier to trim it off once this has had a little time to set. So I'm going to allow this to set, and then I'm going to get some more glue, and I'm going to go around all of the edges and cover it with the glue. All this does is it just smooths out these lines where you've got the layers, and then when I paint it, it won't be quite so obvious what it is. But that is definitely the makings of a reasonable little planter. The completed box has had a coat of black acrylic. Now I'm going to go over this with some metallic silver. If I wanted to get a sort of zinc effect, I would actually paint this with a light grey paint and then sort of sponge the silver over, and then you get an effect that's more in keeping with that sort of old zinc kind of planter, a florist bucket kind of effect. I'm not really going for that this time, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a coat of the metallic silver, not very thick because I don't want it to be perfect, but I'm going to do it on the outside and around the edges of the inside. I haven't decided what I'm going to put in here to build it up a bit to give me my soil, although the actual soil layer will be done with some tea later on, tea leaves that is. You can use coffee grounds, but we don't drink coffee in this house, so tea it is. And yeah, I will then have a metal planter, and we'll be able to move on to my spooky plant. My pot is painted and I'm happy enough with that. Obviously, as I said, I've got to put something in to act as the soil, but we will deal with that in a bit. And I'm going to move on to the plant. Now, the spooky plant that I'm trying to replicate today is a boo bell. Now, I've only seen these on YouTube videos, and basically it is a version of a sort of bluebell type plant. Now, these have white flowers that are made into little ghosts. And what I've got is I've got these beads that are sort of translucent white bellflowers. And I decided that actually I could replicate the boo bell using a pipe cleaner, a chenille stem as they call them these days, and I could attach the bells, paint little ghostly faces on, and make my very own boo bells. So that is what I am going to attempt to do. Now obviously, because these are beads, they've got holes in the end. So the first thing I want to do is to make a little green bit to replicate what you'd get on a real flower. I can't remember the parts of a flower apart from the petals. So if you understand me, you know which bits I mean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a small hole punch and some 160 GSM cardstock, and I'm going to punch out some little circles that I'm then going to turn into my little green bits. So I'm going to get on with that and I will show you what I've done. To put the face on my bluebells, I was going to use my fine paint pen and I can't find it. So I've got a archival ink pen, and this seems to be working okay, and I've drawn some faces on the others, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the same on this one. And all I've done is I've done some very simple faces. I've done eyes and then I've done a mouth, and most of them have got sort of shocked open mouths, but I've got one that's a little bit grumpy and one that's a bit sort of So that's my little face done. Obviously if you want to do something more detailed you could do, but this is going to do for me. So what I've got here to do my little green bit is the circle punched out from the cardstock with the little hole punch that I showed you a little while back. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to make a cut from the outside edge in towards the middle, so I can twist it. Now the next bit to do is to try and fold the one piece over the other, which is easier said than done, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to make a bit of a very shallow cone. And I've done the other ones because I wanted to practice, and I kind of got a technique that worked, and now it's proving difficult. And all you do is once you've sort of pinched it into place, is apply a little bit of glue and then pinch it again. And that has hardly worked. It's the worst one I've done. But what I have got is I actually, if I just reposition it a bit, you can see that I have actually got a bit of a point on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dot of glue inside the point, and then I'm going to position it onto my little bell. Now what I've actually found is that I can then sort of treat it as a bit of a hat, and I can sort of push it into place a certain amount. Now I'm not expecting these to look perfect because it is just a circle of cardstock, but it does give a sort of basic kind of look to the bluebell, to the flower, so that it gives it a bit more detail. Now what I've done with the pipe cleaner is I have bent it so that when I put it in the pot, sort of in one corner, it kind of comes to the opposite corner. and I'm going to attach my little bluebells with some glue at various points. Now the first one, which I'm going to do with this one that I've just completed, I'm going to pop some glue on the top, a good amount of glue on the top, and I'm going to basically stick the chenille stem to the end. At a bit of an angle. This isn't going to work trying to do it like this, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it in front of the camera. I want it to stick sort of like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the filming for a minute, and I'm going to try and get these to stick into place. It should work. I have stuck stuff to the chenille stems before, but it just takes a while, and actually it is working. It's just, as I say, taking a while to get it to grip. So I'm going to go off and do that, and I'll show you the result. Well, I had some fun with that. I've glued these together with my glue before, but today it was having none of it, so I resorted to the hot glue, and it's left a bit of a mess. However, I can sort that out with some paint once everything's dry. I also used hot glue to attach my stem into my planter. And what I actually did there was I put a little hole into the layers of the board, and I glued the stem in and then surrounded it with hot glue, and actually filled the base up a bit with hot glue, and then I've covered it with my acrylic glue just to even it out. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to put a bit of paint over it, and then we'll turn it into dirt. So obviously that's going to take a while to dry. Probably leave that at least overnight. But I think you can see that my bluebells are actually coming together quite well. I ummed and ahed over whether I'd got room for the 5, or whether I should just go with 4. But I did go with the 5 in the end. And it's actually got a really nice bit of a bounce, which I like. It's got some movement, it's got some life, it's not completely rigid, which is brilliant. So I think my next step, aside from waiting for everything to dry, is going to be to use some more of the 160 GSM cardstock to make some leaves. I want to sort of replicate the kind of leaves that bluebells have, which are quite spiky and come off the stem and sort of curl over a bit. So I'm going to play about with ways of doing that, possibly while this glue is still wet, so I can stick it in the glue and use that to support it. We shall see, but I will be back with you very shortly. The glue has dried, and I have added my leaves. I've made my foliage from some more of the 160 GSM cardstock coloured with an alcohol marker, and all I did was I cut it off into various sort of triangular pieces. Literally got my scissors and just cut bits off, and then I've attached that around the stem to give it a bit of something more. I have added my tea leaves to the pot to give the effect of soil, and I like how it's looking. It still needs some watered down paint, I think, just to take the eye away from the hot glue marks, but the actual bluebells are looking pretty good. Now what I did think is that the pot itself looks rather empty, So what I'm thinking is I'm going to add a little skull into the pot, and then put some more tea leaves in the end and make a little label which says what they are, just to give it a little bit more, just a little bit more basically. So that's what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to take my skull and I'm going to put some glue into both of the holes, and I'm going to add some tea to that so it looks like it's sort of part buried, and it will cover up the fact it's a bead and not just a little skull. And then I'm going to make a little label. I think I'm going to use some more of the cardstock, and I'm going to colour it with some distress ink, and then just write on it with the archival marker again. Probably going to use a bit of wire, I think, to make a little pin for the label, but we'll see. I will be back. So I've added a bit of dark green paint to the top of the stem to cover up the hot glue, and I've also added a bit of watered down black paint just to sort of age all of it, to make it look like actually this isn't a new piece, like it's been outside for a while. The skull is in place and the little Boo Bells sign, which I've tried to make look a little bit rough around the edges. Not my best work, but it will do. And I'm actually quite pleased with this. It's sort of come out how I wanted it to, and it's going to make a nice addition to my Halloween decorations. And the great use for these little floral beads that I'd got. I actually think I bought these to try and make some lights with, but a few of them used for this purpose. Well, I think that's fair enough, don't you? If you've enjoyed this video and you like my spooky plant, please like, comment and subscribe. It all helps the channel, and maybe even ring that notification bell. Do that and you'll know when I upload a video. I upload most weeks, normally on a Friday, but I never promise anything because real life can so easily get in the way. But that said, until next time, bye!